Hey guys, this is Joelle from Scratch Farmstead, and today we are going to be talking all about using cast iron pans. So cast iron cooking is one of my favorite things for a lot of reasons. But if you have struggled in the past, maybe you used cast iron once and everything stuck and it made a huge mess, or you have rusty cast iron pans, or you want to ditch your non-stick cookware but aren't sure where to begin with cast iron and it's pretty intimidating and you don't know where to begin, we are going to walk you through all of the really simple steps to make cast iron totally easy and absolutely non-stick and non-toxic for your family. So this was me just not too long ago, where I used cast iron for a lot of things, but I was convinced that I would never be able to cook an egg in cast iron and have it not stick. Because I didn't know properly how to use my cast iron to make it totally non-stick. So I'm going to teach you the tips and tricks that we learned along the way to make your cast iron completely non-stick and totally usable in all those situations, including cooking the perfect egg in a cast iron pan. Okay, so we love cooking with cast iron for so many reasons. This is a super traditional way to cook things that people have been cooking for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. You've maybe found that your grandma has a cast iron pan that's sitting in her basement. If that's true, grab it, use it. If no one's using it, put that thing to good use. Some of my favorite pans that we have are cast iron pans that are vintage, that have been around for a long time. This one was my grandma's that we found in her house. It's at least 70 to 80 years old, if not more. And so those cast iron pans are the best. So if you're looking for a cast iron pan, if you don't currently have one, you can buy them new. You can buy them on Amazon or wherever. But I highly recommend looking for a good quality used antique one. Ask around, ask your grandma, go to a Goodwill or an antique store, find one, because they are all over the place and you can find one. And those ones that are pre-seasoned and well used are the best. But you can also totally season a brand new cast iron pan and that will work out just fine. So what does seasoning a cast iron pan mean? I feel like this term is thrown around a lot. What does that mean? So seasoning a cast iron pan is where you want to heat your pan and coat it with cooking fat. So traditionally, what people would have used to coat and season their cast iron pan is animal fats like lard, because that's what they had available to them. You don't have to use that. We like to cook with those animal fats. They're really easy to get locally at local farms. Farms are often looking to get rid of them for really low cost because they're not super popular, but they are excellent. They are nutritious. They are heat stable. They're really, really awesome fats. But if you don't want to use animal fat, that's okay. You can use a light layer of coconut oil or olive oil to season your cast iron pan. But all you need is a light layer of cooking fat on your pan. You don't need to put dollops on there. You just need a light layer, and then you're just going to heat it up. So you could even just throw your cast iron pan in the oven at 400 degrees for an hour or two. And that's it. That's how you season your cast iron pan. Some people that I know just keep their cast iron pans in their oven at all times. So when they're cooking something else, their cast iron pan's in there. If it has a good layer of fat on it, that's just going to keep seasoning it. And that seasoning is what's going to make it resistant and not stick. So things that your cast iron pan loves are a little bit of fat on the pan and heat. Heat is so, so important when cooking with cast iron. So this is the biggest reason that I see that people have things stick to their cast iron pan, is that the pans when they use them are not hot enough. So before you start cooking with your cast iron pan, you need to heat it up. So you can either throw it in the oven and heat it, like while your oven is preheating, throw your cast iron pan there, get it nice and hot before you cook with it. Or if you want to, say, cook an egg on your cast iron pan, like we're going to do today, throw it on the stove. So I put about maybe a teaspoon of cooking fat on there. We use tallow, and now I'm going to put it on my stovetop and just let that heat up. Okay, so you want your pan to be heated up to, say, roughly around 400 degrees. You don't need to take a thermometer and measure it, but you want it to be nice and hot. And the reason that you want your cast iron pan to be hot is because the bonds in protein react with the bonds in the metal when it's not preheated, causing them to adhere to one another and to stick together. But when the pan is heated, it causes those bonds to not stick together and to make it a perfectly safe, healthy, non-stick pan to cook with. So that's why we love cast iron. It is super traditional, it is healthy, people have been using it for generations, it's versatile, you can move it from your stovetop to your oven, and back and forth, and it cooks everything really nice and uniform and really, really well. So it's perfect for grilling a steak in the winter, for making one of our favorite things to make is cornbread in it or our potato crusted quiche in it, and these things do not stick at all as long as you follow these guidelines of heating it up, adding a nice little layer of cooking fat to your pan. It won't stick at all. So for us, one of the big things that I thought we would never be able to do is fry an egg on a cast iron pan without it sticking. I was convinced that you'd have to use like a nonstick pan forever in order to do this because every time I tried, it stuck. But since I learned this trick of heating up your cast iron pan, this is now the only way we cook anything, and specifically the only way we fry our eggs in the morning. So I'm going to show you how to do that so you can try it at home and know that cooking eggs in cast iron is totally doable and easy. So one thing to do, just to make sure your cast iron pan is heated well enough and you know that it's nice and hot, is to grab a little bit of water, put a little splash of water on your pan, and if it gets all nice and sizzly and bubbly, it's a good sign that your cast iron pan is probably heated enough and ready to go. So then you're going to go ahead and crack your egg right onto your pan. This is an important step, guys, is that you need to just let it sit for a minute. You don't want to touch it. You don't want to disturb it. You don't want to get your spatula and start stirring it around. Just let it sit, okay? And so by doing this, it does its thing, and this is what helps create the non-stickness. If you start stirring it right away, this is when it could stick. Another thing is that if you've cooked in your cast iron pan, say, and something did stick a little bit, and there's a bunch of pieces of food crusted on there, you're going to want to clear that out because those old crusted food pieces could also make things stick to your cast iron. So we're going to go ahead and say I want a scrambled egg here. So I'm going to go ahead and break this yolk a little bit and just let this sit here and do its thing. And you can already tell if you start to move this around that nothing is sticking to this pan. Okay, so I'm just going to let that sit a little bit more, just for another minute, but it's totally non-stick. So what about cleaning your cast iron pan after you use it? That is the beauty of non-stick cast iron, is that honestly, I very rarely do anything to clean them. When I cook it, I put a nice layer of grease on there, or cooking fat. I cook it and nothing sticks to the pan, so there is no need to clean it, and it's nicely seasoned for next time. So honestly, I season my pans super rarely because they're basically constantly getting seasoned in this process of heating, oiling, and cooking on them. The more you cook on cast iron, the more non-stick and well-seasoned it's going to be. If you do run into a problem where you did have something stick to your cast iron pan, you're going to run it immediately under just a little bit of water and scrub it with a non-metal scrubby thing. So we just use a plastic, really nice scrubby thing to clean out our cast iron. A little bit of water. You do not want to put soap on your cast iron, but just scrub it. Use some elbow grease. Scrub it nice and good. Get all that caked off stuff on there. And then when you got it nice and clean again, you'll want to make sure that you let it dry thoroughly. So water on your cast iron and putting it away, say in a closet or in a pantry or something with water on it, is going to cause your cast iron to rust. So you want your cast iron pan to be dried out thoroughly before you put it away to store it. But that's it. So honestly, all right, so our egg is nice and good here. I'm just gonna flip it. All right, and as you can see, it is perfectly non-stick. I can pick it up, can move it around, and nothing is sticking to my cast iron pan. Okay, so that's it. That is how you use cast iron to make it non-stick, super easy, super non-toxic for your family. Our favorite way of cooking everything. This is our go-to way of cooking things. Besides acidic things, everything else we cook in cast iron, and we love it. So go ahead, pop that egg off. Perfectly non-stick. Your pan looks great here. Totally seasoned and ready to go for next time around. No cleaning required. So if you like cooking in cast iron or you have any questions, please feel free to make a comment in the box below. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to answer questions. Thanks so much for stopping by the farmstead today, and we'll see you next time.